boomers are the generation born between 1946 and 1964 in the post-war baby boom that came from the peace at the end of World War II. The oldest humans alive right now were born in the 1910s, which means a boomer is someone who has lived about 70% of the time it's possible to live while still being alive. And so in Minecraft terms, that means if you've been playing since 2013 or so, you are a boomer, and just like the boomers, we've had it since it was good, right? Today I want to share my boomer opinions about how Minecraft actually used to be better, and so hello, I'm UpYX Toycat, and that's exactly what we're going to do. After this caveat, the best Minecraft version is technically always going to be the current one. Unlike other game franchises where we yearn for the originals, Minecraft's evolution means the current game is the one with the most content, and everybody loves content, and so you should love the current Minecraft version best, but still, there are some ways that it seems like it's gotten worse, and let's start with the easiest example. Sometimes you can make what seems like a technical improvement that actually makes something worse if you ignore what else you're doing at the same time. Take, for example, train journeys. People love to take them, partially because of the views, so if you made a train twice as fast but made it underground, you might ruin a lot of the reason that people are taking the train versus the plane or the car. This is a classic example, and I think that Minecraft's render distance without a corresponding simulation distance increase is another example, and so a big world that isn't alive is not necessarily my idea of something that should thrive. But the second thing that I would say is worse and makes me a boomer is snowier snow. We voted on this as a community, but ultimately I would say that mountains now suck without leather boots. If you try to go on these, you will get trapped in what is called powdered snow, or what I would call the devil. It's very, very hard to see when the snow you're going to fall through is there and when it's not, and the way you freeze is just oh so painful, and that's before we consider mobs jumping in there and messing you up too. Snowier snow makes mountains a pain, but even if we imagine everyone is always wearing leather boots, or that crafting them first thing is fun, I would say the mountains being far bigger is something that looks beautiful indeed, but there's actually not a lot of need to go up this high. I mean, in theory there's some emeralds and some ores up here, but I just find that I never really care about them on a functional level. That's why that I think that the caves part of the Caves and Clift were something that we should really be proud of as a community, because they're functionally beautiful as well as visually, but the cliffs part is, well, not so much. Minecraft got harder, and it wasn't in a fun way, and funnily enough, I think that mending is exactly the opposite. Minecraft made an enchantment dramatically easier to keep and maintain by making sure that you could have mending, and that means that all of your XP doesn't have to go on repairing or on getting new enchantments, but instead on repairing the tools you already have. There is a system in the game called the Anvil, which is meant to stack up in cost to the point that it gets too expensive, and it's meant to prevent you from keeping those same tools in place, and that system still exists, but alongside it we have mending, an enchantment so powerful that you'd be insane not to use it. Now you make the perfect tool once, and you are done forever. This is something that just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense, and is a classic case of a massive tech advancement that actually limited a large amount of the game, the need to have lots of different tools, the need to maybe go for efficiency 3 instead of a bunch of efficiency 5s, it's all gone, because once you have a tool with mending and any source of experience, which there are a lot of in Minecraft, there's just no need to worry, and that is the shame about mending. But while we're bending the subject of what we could count as something that's improvements, I'd love to talk about just how bad the tutorial is now, especially when you compare it to how it was in the past. Seriously, you get this menu with text to describe what happens now, when literally 13 years ago we had a whole world that was custom made, and actually, while we're at this, the tutorial world wasn't just better, the entire way that Minecraft was done was too. That's because Minecraft used to be built for each platform that it was on. Now, instead of having a Minecraft that's built for the phones, a Minecraft that's built for the specific console you're on, or a Minecraft that is built for all PCs, instead there is a Minecraft that is for all of those things. Playing on your smart fridge, your Switch, or indeed on your PC with a GTX 480, I think no matter what you're doing, it's all going to be the same Minecraft, and that is just ridiculous, and that's what leads to many of the weird technical decisions, like what we're talking about with simulation distance, or the lack of tutorial, or even the consideration for how snowier snow, which is a nightmare if not properly planned for, all of these things happen because there is one Minecraft for everywhere, and then there's also the Java edition. But still, having both of these Minecrafts does not cover the full spectrum of devices, and honestly, it feels like they never really intended for it to do so perfectly. But I think that is the same old rant about the Bedrock edition that literally every Bedrock player that's been playing since the Switch will tell you about. So let's instead go for something else that is specifically aimed at non-boomers. So just to be clear for this next section, you're going to want to hover over the unsubscribe button because I'm about to ruin your childhood if you were someone who started playing Minecraft in the 2016 onwards period, because it is widely accepted that mob votes are bad, but nope, mob votes were cool as heck, and you're not cool for disliking them.
But Toy Cat, you misunderstand. There were some really lame options that we had to vote on.
No, actually, a lot of the second place options were really cool. The Rascal would have been like a wandering trader for mineshafts, bringing lives to caves, the Crab could have allowed us to place blocks further away, and the Penguin could have made the second slot in my boat less lonely. There were lots of weird options along the way, sure, but I think that saying that some of the mobs weren't great is a weird defense, and I think the even weirder critique is the one that it honestly feels more valid, and it's the fact that people say the mob vote should have added all of them. The reason that people believe this is, let's be honest, it's Mojang themselves. Fair play, Mojang are very bad at communicating. They said that all of the mobs from the mob vote would be added eventually, before later clarifying that what they meant is they'd go into the idea library, which means they're just as likely to be added as any other mob. In other words, saying they weren't going to add them on any reasonable time frame. We have now seen 2 mob vote losers be added to the game, but we still have a whole field of them that are not going to be coming.
Exactly, Toy Cat. Don't you understand that Mojang broke their promises, and that's what made the mob vote so bad?
But again, let's actually critically think about it. If Mojang had decided to keep their promise and add all of these, bunch of mobs and all of the other changes they would say, then that would have probably taken up development time that should have been spent on other features. That is to say that if we assume Mojang can only add a limited number of features in the year, which I'll concede if you don't agree with that premise, then this whole thing doesn't make sense, but Mojang only adds a certain number of features to each update because there's only so much that makes sense to add to Minecraft. We don't ever see an update that adds 6,000 blocks or 800 mobs, and so if there are only a limited number of mobs, blocks, and items to add, would you prefer that they add a third place mob over the Warden? That is to say, a mob that when people were given a choice, should this come to Minecraft, the overwhelming majority of people said no to. In fact, you could argue if Mojang had just been honest and said the second place maybe would come and the third place will never come, then we'd have had a much better voting system because people would have understood the difference in consequence between voting for a mob to come right now and voting for a mob to come probably never. We have never seen a third place mob come to the game, and so whether Mojang were honest or not, it was a functioning system that allowed us to see lots of cool ideas and allowed Mojang to see which of those ideas were most interesting. I would have guessed that the Crab was the most interesting idea because placing blocks further away is the core of Minecraft, but I was wrong, and so too would anyone in Mojang who would have guessed it. In fact, if you remember one of the biome votes where we chose the mountains, the same mountains that have resulted in snowier snow, well, interestingly enough, Jeb was asked how he felt about the mountain being chosen over the swamp, and he said,
No, I was happy, but I was happy with the swamp biome as well. I guess I was a little bit surprised. I thought that the swamp biome would win thanks to the boats with chests in them. But it's going to be exciting to work on the mountains.
Now, it would be entirely fair to say, wait a minute, did Jeb just say that he thought something would win before he put it out there? Is that the reason why the mountains took so long? Because Jeb secretly wanted to add the swamp, and to be clear, they did add the swamp later with its chest boat and frogs. You could make that case, or you could say that, yeah, even when Mojang are fairly sure of what the result is going to be, by the time it reaches the community, you end up with entirely different results, and those results give us snowier snow, so maybe we should actually regret them. But yeah, I think that is a very important thing, and so I also think that while we're on the same subject, I miss how good update hype used to be. I mean, this is something that is self-explanatory, but nostalgia used to be so much better back when I was starting Minecraft, and more seriously, I do think it was cool that we dreamed of dragon updates or the Wither and Beacon updates, and now the idea of getting a brand new boss in an update is kind of mute. The idea of getting major changes to the gameplay loop is kind of not within the scope of what we see right right now, the changes that we see and the potential for the future of the game feels like it is slightly less, not least because we now do drops instead of updates. But yeah, while we're speaking about updates, I want to give you an update on the fact that yeah, I am a Minecraft boomer, and so I have lots of boomer opinions that I'll concede aren't going to be hugely popular, but I have to drop in this video anyway. So here are some opinions that I think would be different, things that I would make different, and obviously that I think would be better. Beacons should give you night vision. Loyalty 4 and Loyalty 5 should exist, because when you have a trident with Loyalty 3, it sometimes takes way too long to return to you. Why don't we just let it go up to level 5? Also, why don't we have more nether biomes? Also, why don't we have tameable foxes like they have in Russia? And I obviously think that if I'm going to finish this little mini list of things that I would complain about, I think the best way to finish this list is the best way to finish this video, and for Mojang to finish their little experiment with drops. That's right, an end update. Minecraft obviously needs one of these, and we've been dreaming about it for a while, but maybe that means that now is the time, or maybe it means that by the time we're boomers, we'll be thinking fondly back on when we could dream about an end update, because the truth is that as soon as something has happened, it is gone, but while you can imagine something in your head, it is so much better. I like to imagine the sorts of things I would do without mending, and I did used to do it, but it's far easier with mending. I like to imagine how much better mountains would be without snowier snow, but that is a real drawback to me, and as much as I like to imagine that the render distance is, would be so much better if it was lower down, I could turn it down at any point, but there's a reason that I turn all of these things up, and it's just the same reason that boomers live in our current world, even though they could easily move to a middle-income country with a higher crime rate that was much more similar to the world that they grew up in, maybe if it's more traditional too, but the truth is that they don't want to, because despite all of the things that might feel like they were better when you're young, the truth is that lots of things are based on your memories and your nostalgia, because over time, all of your strongest memories, your most positive and your most negative, are the ones that will stay there, and the ones that will give you this strong emotional connection, whereas all the stuff that's just fine, or even pretty good, will kind of fade away into the background. There are lots of things I miss about when I first started playing Minecraft, and every time I watch gameplay of old beta or Xbox 360 edition, I wonder why it is that I don't quit everything and just go back to that, but the answer is the same reason why you should actually fear an end update, which is the moment it happens, your visions and your imaginations of what could be and what could happen all of a sudden collapse into the real possibilities. Minecraft updates and Minecraft drops are great and are opening up new possibilities all the time, but the Minecraft that you first started playing is always going to be the Minecraft that's close to your heart. But I will say, be careful what you wish for, because the moment something from your nostalgia bubble becomes true, you might actually find that it's not as good as you like to imagine. With that said, I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, then nostalgically you might enjoy hitting that like, favorite, or subscribe button, because I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.